Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Andorra la Vella in Andorra. Now, first of all, some of you may have never heard of Andorra. I'll put my little playlist up in the corner so you can learn a lot more about the history of Andorra, but we're going to be going over a lot of the important moments of its history because Andorra la Vella is the capital city of Andorra. It means Andorra, the city. I assume as opposed to Andorra, the country. But the region we're going to be talking about, you can see here it says Andorra. We're going to be talking about this chunk here. It's about that size. I didn't bother drawing it on the map because it's not a very big place. Andorra is a microstate. If you have no idea where Andorra is, it is wedged right between France and Spain, right on their border. And it's a very, very small little place within the Pyrenees Mountains. Now, even though the region we're going to be talking about is about this chunk here, we're really only going to be talking about the city Andorra la Vella because all of this over here and all of this over here is just beautiful, beautiful mountains and hiking trails and things. Not much history in that, but a lot of history right here. You can see right here on my map, there's a little airplane, but that's kind of a lie. That would designate an airport. There is no airport in Andorra. This is actually a helipad, so you can land your helicopter there, but you can't be landing any planes there. You'd have to go into Spain or France and take a bus in. Andorra la Vella is situated in a beautiful, beautiful valley between some big, big mountains here. And within that valley is the Vella River. There's a mosquito right here. Oh my gosh, hold on. 1 second. Oh, I hate mosquitoes. I don't want to get close to the mic and hear a buzzing. It just flew off. Anyway, I'm sorry. I hate mosquitoes. It'll come back and I'll get it. Anyway, the Vella River, as I was saying. The North Vella and the East Vella, which I assume is around here, meet just north of the city and it becomes the Vella River flowing through the capital. And not much else to say about the geography, to be honest. It's a very tiny place in a very tiny country, as I like to say. So let's get into the history. Why does this country exist? And what's it up to today? Because you never really hear about Andorra in the news. So this area has been settled in these mountain valleys for quite a long time. The ancient peoples here were known as the Andosine. I think hence the name Andorra. And they just sort of minded their own business. You know, the Romans knew they were there. They just kind of let them be. I think Hannibal Barca passed nearby, but not really through here when he went to invade Rome over the mountains with his war elephants. They were just kind of left alone. You know, this was a very hard place to reach up high in the mountains, so nobody really bothered until someone did. And those people were known as the Moors, the Muslim North African invaders that came up the Iberian Peninsula and was heading farther and farther and farther and farther north. And one of the peoples who challenged them was King Charlemagne of France, or as they say in French, Charlemagne. That was my cat. Okay. I'm trying to wait for him to go to sleep. Charlemagne asked the people living here to help him push back against the Moors, and they did. And apparently, this is all legend, by the way, they were successful. And the Moors never made it this far north. So Charlemagne thanked the people here by granting them independence. And thus the country of Andorra was born. Or so the legend says. There is absolutely no proof behind the story. It's just the accepted history of the people of Andorra, and they're very proud of it. They mentioned Charlemagne in their national anthem. But there was no government, no kings, no lords, nothing like that. It was just little villages. So who was going to maintain this country, keep it running? It was eventually decided that that would be the Bishop of Urgell, which is how you say it in English, Urgell, in nearby Spain. And it became the property of the Bishop of Urgell. Now through various marriages, what have you, power bouncing between various families, it wound up becoming the Count, I think it was the Count of Foix in France. So it wound up being owned by the bishop and a prince, I think, or count, I'm not positive. So they both had rightful claims to Andorra. So instead of fighting over it, they decided to rule it together, and they became the co-princes of Andorra. I forgot to give you the years. The Bishop of Urgell took over in 1133, and the co-prince thing happened in 1278. Now, through other marriages and things, it went from the lords of Foix, and it went higher and higher as more marriages were arranged, and it wound up going all the way to the crown, to the King of France. So for a while it was controlled by the Bishop of Urgell and the King of France, whoever that would be at the time. But if you know your French history, French kings very quickly became not a thing during the French Revolution. So then it became the Bishop of Urgell and Napoleon, which I'm sure Napoleon was tickled over claiming this territory and co-ruling it. But that wouldn't be for long either. So it eventually became the Bishop of Urgell and the President of France, which it still is today. So as of filming right now in October 2023, actually this is going up in November. This is going up November 1st, 2023. It would be Emmanuel Macron is the co-prince of Andorra. And whoever replaces him will be the next co-prince of Andorra. The Bishop of Urgell, I'm not sure who that is, a Spanish guy, is also the co-prince currently of Andorra. A rich family in the city here of Andorra la Vella built a beautiful house along the river, and they called it Casa de la Val. They built it in 1580. And that building passed hands so many times that eventually it wound up becoming their parliament building, so to say, except it wasn't called a parliament. It was called the Council of the Valleys, because, you know, they had co-princes in their respective homes. So the Council of the Valleys would maintain things more of a day-to-day level, you know, more domestic, not so important things. But that was to change very suddenly in the 1930s. I keep forgetting to say the years. The Council of the Valleys took over the Casa de la Val in 1702. We're jumping to the 1930s now, when a Russian guy, who's actually Lithuanian, but Lithuania was Russia at the time, named Boris Skosrev, declared himself to be King Boris I of Andorra. And he came to Andorra and bamboozled quite a few people into saying he has this claim and that claim that he completely made up. He was a total fraudster. He declared war on the Bishop of Urgell, which got the attention of the actual rulers of Andorra. And he was very swiftly booted out of the country. But that kind of made people realize we need a lot more structure in this country, because if some random dude can come in and decide he's going to start taking over, then we have a problem. So a better government system and a democratic system of electing this council came to be. The mosquito's back. Okay, there it goes. I'll get it soon. So thanks to that weird guy, democracy came to Andorra. The Casa de Laval is no longer the Parliament building. It moved in 2011 to, I believe, a purpose-built building. So the Casa de Laval is now a very beautiful museum. And basically that is the history of the city of Andorra la Vella. It's mostly known in Europe, I believe, for being a duty-free city. So a lot of people come here for duty-free shopping, which just means no taxes are collected on the things you buy. Andorra is also famous for skiing and its cheap tobacco. And interestingly, Andorra uses the euro, but they are not part of the EU. I think it's just a matter of convenience, since their neighboring countries all use the euro. It's just easier for them to accept the euro, but Andorra is not in the EU. Isn't that interesting? Let me grab my tablet so I can show you what this place actually looks like. There we go. I'm really zoomed in, so I have to just make sure you guys can see well. I have Andorra la Vella, the town, highlighted. You can see the borders of the region here. And let me zoom out so I can show you exactly where we are in the world if you're still confused about where Andorra is. So, if I zoom way out, you can see France, you can see Spain, and Andorra is just a tiny dot right up here in the mountains. You can see the big mountain chain here, just right there. Very small little speck of a place. So let's check out this city. We'll look in here and then I'll show you some of the sites up in the hills that I found. Let's see. Oh, let me show you the 3D because it's so beautiful here in this valley. Look at that. Look at those mountains. Incredible, right? Everywhere you go in Andorra, you just have a beautiful view of something. I like that. So you can see there's sports complex here. You can go bowling there. That's where you get to the suburbs over here. We have a really cool Salvador Dali statue here in this main square. The very famous melting clocks. And nearby there's this little bridge over the river, which is pretty iconic, apparently. Let's head over to the Casa de Laval. So this is the building, the General Council it's called now, not the Parliament. You can see the Andorran flag there. This beautiful old building. That's where it used to meet. It's very fancy. That looks like a courtroom, where that's where the person testifying would stand. Very beautiful. Look at all those wood details. Very cool. Pretty statue. Big dining hall here, I assume. So yeah, you can book tours of the museum. A little chapel here. You can see there's like a wood painting, it looks like, of the crucifixion up there. Obviously a Christian country. The story of Charlemagne didn't imply that. Little kitchen. Towers. An office space by the looks of it, with some really old artwork on the walls. Some little wood crafts of some sort. The beautiful views of the mountains. Very cool, right? Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. There's some really nice churches. Very old buildings. Let's take a look at... We're getting out of town. I guess we'll check out this one. I don't think this is the big, famous church. Well, it says it's Andorra's oldest church over here. So, let's check it out. You can see the top of the tower there. It does look very old, doesn't it? Look at this beautiful painting on the ceiling. Wow. Incredible. That looks super medieval, doesn't it? Beautiful altar here. Wow, look at this chapel. It's a very, very old building. Santa Coloma. They speak Catalan here. Only a few places in the world speak Catalan, and they're just in Spain and Andorra. It's a big mishmash of Castilian Spanish and French. Really pretty. There's a couple of old churches there, but that's a good example of what they look like. Lastly, I'm going to show you this cool hiking trail here. If you're wondering what Tomorrow Andy is, I think Tomorrow means trail, because I saw a lot of other trails in the mountains that were labeled with Tomorrow, but Andy, short for Andorra, I assume. This is Andy. Cute. What a cute mascot. So from what I can tell, this trail is marked with a bunch of little Andes. And it's like a self-guided tour of this mountain with lots of little activities on the way. I guess maybe it's an easy trail you can take your kids up and explore the woods. Yeah, look at that. They get to play while you have hiking adventures. Look at this. They made a little river here out of the trees. It took me a minute to be like, why Andy? And I'm like, oh, obviously. Andy Andorra. Here's a graveyard. Wow. Do you think, I was about to say, do you think it's a real graveyard? Probably. They look like the kind of tombstones you put in your yard for Halloween. But they're probably real. Look at the beautiful mist over the city. Lots of beautiful miradors, which means like a lookout point. We don't have a word for that in English. But yeah, it looks like a family-friendly hiking trail that you just follow the Andes up the mountains and see all the little sights and lookouts over the city. How cool is that? Oops. Get out of there. Okay. But I am going to end it there. There's lots of other cool sites in this country, but they're not in this little section, so we'll talk about them on another day. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. This is an ongoing series on my channel. Next, we're going to be heading over to, we're in Western Europe, we're going to go to Eastern Europe and explore a very tiny place in Montenegro. Very tiny, very quaint. You don't want to miss it. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good